I'm always just curious with like Bob Backlund versus Superstar Billy Graham. I know you had title matches versus both those guys, but a lot of people always said like, "Wow, Superstar should have kept the title." I don't know why he dropped it to Backlund. Like he was so over. What do you think, Backlund versus Superstar Billy Graham? Like Backlund had a 5-year title run. Graham was, kind of cut short on his.
Yeah, well, it's called politics. Uh, when I was there, they were thinking about putting the belt on me. While the innuendos were flying around, blah blah. And Bruno came to me 2 or 3 times, said, "Kenny, I want to put the belt on you. I'd like to have you have the belt." But Vince made a deal with Eddie Graham down in Florida to put it on superstar Billy Graham. And I said, "Really?" And I said, "Well," he said, "but you're going to get your chance. You're going to eventually wind up with the." Oh, fuck. But anyway, so then they brought Bobby Backlund in and put him on TV for 1 year, just crushing him over every week on TV. And Bobby's from Princeton, Minnesota, which isn't too far from where I live, maybe 100 miles up here in Minnesota. So anyway, then I'm thinking to myself, God, this guy's awfully bland,
Yeah.
But Bobby wrote a nice chapter in my book. So for those that are Bobby Backlund fans, he wrote a real nice chapter. And so anyway, I think Bobby Backlund was down in Florida at the same time as Superstar. So, or maybe he came right after. Anyway, they brought Superstar up here, and him and Bruno did a little program, and they put the belt on Superstar. It wasn't very long. How long did Superstar have the belt?
I think it was less than a year, which is crazy back
Oh yeah,
then.
it was
Back
way
then,
less.
yeah,
Huh?
because back then, I mean, you held the title for a long time. You know what I mean? Like Bruno had it for 8 years. Um, Pedro Morales had it for a long time. Like usually, you held it for a while, so it was a short run for Superstar.
Yeah. Well, then uh, I get the old man Vince's father. I heard him talking to Phil Zacco and Gorilla Monsoon one day over at TV. They were waiting, but I could hear a little bit of what they were talking. The old man was pissed off at Ivan Koloff and Superstar Billy Graham. And this is before they put the belt on Superstar. But anyway, he says, "I'm going to bring a kid in here from Minnesota. He's wrestling for Eddie Graham, and the Funk Brothers broke him in out in Amarillo. And I'm going to put a belt on him. And that's somebody I can control. I can't control all these supreme egomaniacs that get that fucking belt." And he had mentioned Ivan Koloff and Superstar. He was upset because those guys would always hold him up for more money.
Wow.
You
Okay.
know, let's say they made 5,000 wrestling in the Madison Square Garden. Well, then they'd come back and want 7,500. And shit like that. I never did that to any promoter. Never. Uh, Unless I really got fucked.
Right. Right. Of course.
Which some promoters were so shady. I'm not going to mention their names, though. But anyway, uh, so that's how that came about. Superstar had a very short run for WWF champion. Yeah, it was less than a year, lot less than a year. So then they brought, because Bobby was already in the WWF, but like I say, for 1 year to the day, 1 year, they put him on TV every week with squash jobs and stuff. And so the old man thought that was going to be the way to push Bobby Backlund to the top. So when it came time for Superstar to drop the belt, it was him and Backlund. And so I can't remember where did Backlund beat Superstar at? You remember?
I thought it was at MSG.
Yeah, it probably was. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I was thinking of Bruno and Superstar.
Oh yeah, I think Bruno and Superstar was Baltimore or something. Yeah,
Baltimore.
Backlund wins. Backlund definitely wins it at MSG. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, right. MSG sounds like the name of a beer.
MSG, Madison Square Garden.
So anyway, so when Backlund took the belt, everybody says, the territory will die. Backlund won't draw a dime. Well, he did draw a dime, because when I wrestled him, later on, I don't think I was in the WWF when Backlund beat him. God damn, everything's a little fuzzy there. But anyway, Backlund and I wound up wrestling about 20 times. As a matter of fact, in 1980, we were voted Match of the Year, if you recall that, in Wrestling Illustrated.
Yep.
Yeah, so and that was in Madison Square Garden. That match, we went about 30 minutes, I think. And I had a good run with Backlund. We sold out everywhere. We sold out Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Boston. We sold out everywhere that, especially in the big arenas.
Yeah, you got to give him credit. He drew pretty well. I mean, people can say what they want, but you got to give him credit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the, especially with me, when I had my run with Bobby, it was a long run too. Mm-hmm. Everybody felt that there's no way Backlund's going to keep that belt. Patera's going to beat the shit out of him and take the belt. That was the feeling of the fans. When he'd come out to the ring, everybody would, especially in Madison Square Garden, Philadelphia, all the fans, 20,000 people, they'd be on their feet. It's howdy doody time. It's howdy doody time. And God, oh man. It was funnier than shit. Yeah, because the way he'd come in, he was in such fantastic condition. The guy was like a machine. You couldn't slow him down. And he was perpetual motion all the time. Just constant. And so that's, he just had an air about him, not the same type as Bruno had, or Superstar, or myself, and the fans thought that he was very beatable, and he wasn't. The Iron Sheik ended his run. I'm going to give you some real inside wrestling here.
Okay. I like that.
When Bobby Backlund dropped the belt to the Iron Sheik, prior to Hulk Hogan coming back in and beating the Sheik.
Yep.
Well, Vince, but now Bobby told me this, so it's not out of bounds. And I think Hulk Hogan told me too. So when Backlund had held the belt for 6 years, I believe. What was it, 6 years?
Just about, yeah. There's a title run where he technically loses to Enoki, but if you really look at it, it's a 5-year title run. If you don't count the Enoki win in Japan, he really held it for 5 straight years. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, 5 years. Vince McMahon, the old man had passed away at this time. So I think he had. And so Junior has the run of the company now. He comes to Backlund and says, Bobby, I'm going to switch the belt, because Backlund was supposed to have it for another year or two. I'm going to switch the belt. You're not marketable anymore. I don't know what to do with you. I can't market you as WWF champion anymore. And Backlund really took that hard. And Bobby told me.
That's rough.
And I says, well, shit, you're over. I mean, but why change? Well, in the meantime, about 6 months prior to that, Vince flew out here to the AWA, out to Minneapolis, and had a meeting with Hulk and promised the Hulk, $1 million a year guaranteed, and the WWF title, everything. Well, how could Hulk turn that down? And so Vince was thinking, down the road 6 months, 8 months. Here, just a minute. So anyway, when Hulk went back to New York, he talked to me. He says, Kenny, why don't you come back now? I said, nah, not yet. I'll come back, but not right now. And Hulk told me what they were going to do with him. And so prior to Hulk, Backlund told me that Vince didn't think he was marketable anymore. And but he didn't tell Backlund how they were going to switch the belt. And so anyway, the Iron Sheik was going to beat him. And then shortly after that, a matter of weeks, yep, Hulk was going to beat the Iron Sheik and become a babyface. And that's how all that worked. And most people don't know how that belt switch evolved, but that's exactly what it was. Vince, but Vince had gone in his own head, had gone Hollywood, and he wanted showman, and he wanted this and that, and so so it was end of the road for Backlund.